If you want to see more videos and interviews like this from influential people in tech, finance, and sports, subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the bell to be alerted. And go a step further and join the YouTube and membership area for early releases of videos like this. I'm out of here. Yes, your boy Crypto Blood, and welcome to another Kicking It session. Today I've got my man John Constantine on with me, NFT artist, actually a real artist, just doing an NFT series. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about all things NFT and get his feelings on things. He's been a long time supporter and follower of mine, so I saw him come into Ken Bozak's chat room. I'm like, is that John Constantine? Like the guy that I know? So it was cool to see you, man, and that's actually how I found out really about what you were doing. So welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, brother. You found out what I'm doing through Ken Bozak?
Yeah, in the chat rooms when you dropped in, I saw you in there. I'm like, what? That's crazy seeing him, and then I went and saw what you were actually up to. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, brother.
Tell us about yourself and how did you find yourself in the crypto space? Because I think I started communicating with you back in 2017, maybe. So kind of give us your journey into the crypto space, and we can talk about your art side.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny because I feel like a newbie to all of it still, but there are so many new people coming in that I guess to a lot of them, I seem like an OG. I've been in it for like 4 years now. With me originally, I had heard about it way back in the day, probably back when you got in. I knew some friends that told me about it, and you can use it to buy stuff on the internet. And I didn't know it was anything more than just some digital token. But in early 2017, a good friend of mine, of course, I think the money gets a lot of us in and gets us to pay attention. He had turned like $5,000 into like 250 grand. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look into this. And once I saw the technology about how it worked and saw how innovative it was, is when I decided to dig a little bit deeper. So yeah, I actually got in like mid 2017 and just started with just Bitcoin. And actually my first purchase was Stratus. I don't know if you guys remember it.
I remember that.
Token called Stratus. So I got into that. I was underwater like almost immediately, and I learned to have diamond hands there. But initially, I just got into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and saw that. And then the next year, 2018, was when I started pursuing art just separately, more seriously. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And initially just started putting myself out there, meeting people. I thought, interestingly, everyone in the community back then seemed pretty cool. So met a lot of good people, and just really liked what was going on.
Nice. So what's your actual professional background? Are you an artist full time, or kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's all over the place. So initially, gosh, I'm getting old. It was probably like almost 10 years ago now. I studied aviation mechanics. So aircraft, jet engines,
nice.
pretty much everything that flies, the FAA has to regulate who can work on them, who can fix them, who can build them. So I studied that and intended to go into a career doing that. But in the meantime, I had started a business to get myself through schooling. So when I graduated, I had started what back then was just a little pressure washing company. And I started looking for jobs when I graduated, and I'm like, hold on, I'm making more money running my own business here, working for myself, which had always kind of been a dream of mine. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to take a year or two, and I'm just going to stick with this, learn what I can about business, and then go from there. And never ended up going into the industry, into aviation. I just stayed in business for the last 10 years. And ironically, my first business was the most successful one, the boring, trades type stuff. But just hired a few people, and I'm from Florida, so there's all kinds of stuff like that.
Sure.
But I had a bunch of side businesses in the meantime, doing stuff with carbon fiber, which I had learned in school when I was working on aircrafts.
I was going to ask you, was that kind of your inspiration behind your it's called medium, right? The medium you use to do your art is very unique. I love carbon fiber. I got it all in my cars and stuff. A lot of my cars come with the carbon fiber. and stuff. So when I saw that, I was like, this is dope. I was
Yeah.
gonna ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it came from. I mean, I learned how to work with it, build stuff out of it when I was in school. And so when I graduated, I just wanted to keep working with it for fun. So I took my business skills I was learning and I started a few businesses making stand-up paddle boards, if you know what those are. Some
Mm-hmm.
people making longboards, making all kinds of different things. I was starting businesses left and right, making stuff out of carbon fiber. And some of those early projects are on my Instagram if you scroll down enough. But yeah, so I just started various different businesses. And then eventually I decided, well, a few years in, I realized I was starting more businesses than sticking with them. And I realized what I really enjoyed was the creative process. So I wanted to find a way to make that creative process an asset to myself instead of a liability and always hopping around. So, so last year I sold all of my business stuff that I was into and decided that this year I was going to try and focus on art full time. So I had been painting semi-professionally for a few years now, selling stuff, and the timing just happened to work out really well that this was the year I was going to focus on art full time, and it was also a good time to integrate my other passion, blockchain technology, into art. So it was kind of providential in a way.
This one right here is fire, man. I know you probably saw this one.
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard because I love everything I create, but it's always so hard parting with it because that one especially I really didn't want to sell, but
Oh man, Eclipse, that is so freaking dope, man. And this is
so
all on carbon fiber
yeah, and
canvas.
with these ones, what my earlier ones are, it's actually raw carbon fiber, and some of this might like go over a lot of people's heads, but if you are into cars and like techie
Yeah,
stuff like that,
my car, I got raw carbon fiber in my new whip.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's like not glazy, shiny looking. It's a matte look on it,
yeah,
right?
but this is a
Yeah.
little different because
Okay.
I'm working with the constituent material, so I'm taking the actual fabric that you would normally laminate. And with the early
Mm-hmm.
ones, I was just wrapping that on a frame, and so it's actually like a fabric, and I would paint on that. There,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the stuff. And it's got a really unique texture that you have to see in person.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people didn't really get it, so lately I've just been doing finished epoxy covered carbon fiber.
Okay.
But yeah, some people never heard of carbon fiber, but if you know what it is, it's like how it started was I was making stuff out of it. And I was like, I just want to hang this on my wall as it is. And I figured if I painted on it first, I would look a little less crazy doing it. So yeah, so that's
Yeah.
kind of my story how I got into it.
Wow. So the whole NFT thing, man, you got into cryptos mid 2017. You saw the craze in ICOs.
Yeah,
Everyone was building a blockchain token to. They didn't even have a problem. They had a solution for a problem that wasn't even there,
yeah.
right? So many cases you have people that were starting businesses that never run a business, never had a startup, never had any of that experience, and we saw the outcome of that. Regulatory things came in and really squashed a lot of that. And without even regulatory um, agencies coming in, we had a lot of people just fail. Period. They didn't know how to execute on these things. So, can Art, do you think we're in a ICO like phase in NFTs? I have this conversation, this argument with a lot of my colleagues on the off the chain episodes that I do over the weekends, and we go back and forth. They have some really compelling views on this as to why it's not the same. I would love to hear what you think about this whole NFT wave we're in right now.
Yeah, I think for me as an artist, it's easy to want to tell people that it's not the same because, I want to see my own stuff get out there and see that grow and see my friends succeed. But I see a whole lot of similarities. And especially having been through 2017 and all that personally, um, I and since it's talked about a lot, I'll make this distinction that I realized is that with 2017, what you had was a lot of like legitimate fraud, and you had a lot of people either lying about their product straight up or overhyping what they were doing or just assembling a team that didn't know what they were doing and presenting themselves wrong. What you have now is a lot of the same hype, and people are trying to rush into all this, you know, mania that's happening. But it's different in that people aren't really like falsely presenting themselves. They're just saying, I'm creating this cool thing, and it's, it might be this digital token, but here's this cool thing that you can buy. And I think so when a consumer comes along and says, I want to buy that, I feel like that decision is fair and entirely on them. Whereas with 2017, like people were genuinely misled. Like I lost a lot of money when the SEC decided to cherry pick like two ICO projects that they were going to strike down with securities violations. And I happen to have a lot of money tied up in one of them. And with this, it's different. Like nobody's breaking any laws, nobody's lying. Like as far as I know, people are just presenting their art or their innovations, and if other people like it, they can buy it. So I think it's a lot more fair in that respect. So that's my two Satoshis on that one.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you. There is some slight fraud going on in the fact that people are stealing other people's art and just
Oh yeah,
tokenizing it. But aside from that, I think how can you judge what the market perceives as value from a unique art piece? I mean, it's subjective to me. I don't think, maybe the prices are a little high, but I think long term, especially if you're talking about real artists who have a name in the real world, I think their art pieces are going to hold value. Their NFT art pieces are going to continue to hold value through any pullback in a crypto market, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
yeah, I agree with that, and I think it's interesting as people try and figure out how to value this, and I think it's especially difficult because you've got two very different industries colliding, where you've got the legacy art world is struggling to understand blockchain. What value does it provide? How much is this worth? How do we do this? And then you've got the blockchain industry that's trying to understand the legacy art world and find similar valuations. So I think it's even more difficult that way, because unless you come from understanding both worlds, which, I happen to be fortunate to understand a little bit about both worlds beforehand, then it's kind of hard to make up your mind on valuation. And when that happens, people turn to, when people are uncertain, they turn to their idols. So they want to see who has followers, who's spending money, and they just kind of want to go with that as, kind of a protection mechanism and a way to not miss out. So I definitely think there's going to be a lot of chop and froth, and definitely things are inflated. But yeah, like you said, I think the people that understand how to create real value for their collectors are going to be the ones whose valuation stays solid. So if you're a collector and you can find those artists, then I think you'll do all right.
Are you looking at it or interested or have bought any NFT artists' work?
I haven't really yet, and I'm not really in that stage of my career yet where, especially like this year, I'm trying to wait a little bit before I start collecting some things. There's some people that I have my eye on and some stuff I'd really like to get into, but I'm playing it a little more low key at the moment. Like
Okay.
even thinking about trying to get into one of the projects I'm trying to watch closely is the B20 project, which not so much just with people and what he's done, but more so with what Metaverse is doing. But just as I'm really thinking about pulling the trigger there, I don't know if you were going to cover it, but people dumps all of his Ethereum for fiat, and I'm sure he's got his reasons for that, and not to put him down for that, but that could potentially have an effect on the valuation there. So.
Speaking of Ethereum, I see that and we can talk about. I want to talk about your art piece, your NFT that you posted on Wearable. Why did you select Ethereum over maybe something like a Wax blockchain, or did you even think anything of it, or what was your thinking behind that?
Yeah, so I mean, this is actually something I've been wanting to do for probably over a year, was to tokenize my work. And it just so happened that the timing worked out that I got out of my old businesses and got into this around now. So I had spent a lot of time looking up all the different mechanisms for doing it. There's Ethereum, there's Wax, there's this thing called the Fine Art Ledger on VeChain. There's a lot of different options. And for me, and for the direction I'm going with my art, is I'm trying to, first of all, look at the thing that's going to be the most future proofed. And that's going to be, if I have a valuable piece of art on the blockchain now, that it's going to be a dominant blockchain 10, 20 years from now. And I
Makes
know
sense.
you talk to people in the industry and everyone has their own opinion about which blockchain is going to be, the winner in 20 years. Like that's the $1 million question. But that's down to each individual artist to make a bet on. And I think from my experiences that at least as far as like a high dollar and really like gallery grade collectible art, I think Ethereum is the most polished, the most battle proven chain that we have so far. And additionally, like decentralization is important to me. So I'm not a huge fan of EOS, which is what Wax is built on. I don't necessarily have any problems with it, but I'm not a big fan of delegated proof of stake. I don't
Gotcha.
really. I mean, ideally, I like proof of work, but I understand why that's not necessarily feasible.
Right.
But I don't put a lot of faith in like delegates. I don't think that worked very well in our government. I don't think it would work in a system where they can be anonymous. So, and then on top of that, Wax was just something that there wasn't a lot out there for me to understand how it functions as a chain built on EOS. That just seemed like Ethereum was the right choice.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So are you not concerned? Well, with in your case as an artist, I think your pieces are probably valued at enough where gas fees aren't an issue.
Hmm.
But maybe for an artist that would sell their digital art
Hmm.
for $10, $20 a piece, that might be an issue for them when their end user has to pay 30, 40, $50 just to, acquire the piece. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on the fees that's going on with Ethereum? And I know they're trying to change that with the ETH 1559
Hmm.
proposal, but
Yeah,
kind of give me your take on that.
yeah, and I think I don't mind diving into the tech side of it too, like the protocol side. I don't know where you usually go with your shows lately, but um, I think Wax is probably the next best thing. I think it just serves a different demographic. And I was talking with Ken about this same thing because he's huge on Wax, and to the point where he won't even buy stuff on Ethereum. But I think at the moment the fees are an issue for artists selling lower value works or like just trying to pump out a lot of digital art. I
Yeah.
think Wax is a good place to go. The one thing I wish is that Wax would create a better portal or a better marketplace that's a little bit more elegant looking because
Mm-hmm.
right now it's very much targeted for gamer stuff, like comic style stuff, and it works really well for that. But as far as
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
trying to put fine art on there would be a little bit awkward as far as branding. Um, but I do think that with the EIP 1559 or whenever ETH 2.0 happens, I think fees will be much less of an issue. But
Yeah.
as far as for like gallery type artwork, $30-40 really isn't that big of a deal. So
Right. Right.
setting
Yep. I
the
agree.
contract hurt a little bit because something that should have cost like $80 a couple of years ago costs like $700. But so that's hard to swallow. But if you're not setting up your own contract, then 20-30 bucks here. I mean, it costs like $200 just to ship my art, so that's not that big of a deal.
Right. Right. No, I hear you, man. I think with Wax, they're trying to make a move towards more high quality launches on their Atomic Hub platform. I know they've got, uh, you know, the cartoons release coming up. That's going
Hmm.
to be dope. And EOS Detroit, actually, the crew I'm with, we're getting ready to launch something major with an artist, a legendary hip hop artist on Wax. So we'll see, man. I definitely get where you're coming from with that, for sure.
Hmm.
Um, so why wearable over maybe OpenSea or some of these other marketplaces? Why did you pick them?
Well, and I may end up promoting more on OpenSea as well. Um, there are a lot of factors for me, and a lot of them are philosophical. Not even, I mean, it is kind of pragmatic that in 100 years you want to know that your metadata is still persisting on the internet when someone has your art. So
Yeah.
the most important thing for me was to get it onto a distributed file storage system like IPFS. And
Right. Very important.
for, for someone like OpenSea who's been in the game so long that I don't know about to this very moment, but earlier this year when I was looking into it, they were still on Amazon Web Server for their hosting, and that's really not secure in any way. Where if I if I put something up on there, it's completely out of my control and it's completely out of their control. And I've said to a few other people that I think art is very political. It's a political thing, and it doesn't matter to me what kind of art you're making, but it's important that your message stays and that it can't be censored. And that's a lot of the values that got me into crypto in the first place. So I wanted something that was on IPFS, but I also wanted something that was open, where it wasn't like a curated platform. So I see the things like Super Rare, Nifty Gateway, now Foundation. Um, I found this guy on Twitter that's a political activist in Iran, and he was trying to get on Foundation to put his art up there. And I understand that your art has to be good for people to want to see it, but he wasn't able to get on there, and that just kind of struck me as um, the kind of gatekeeping that blockchain is supposed to remove. And for all the industries that blockchain takes over, you want those principles to come with it. So to me, it seemed like Rarible was the one that met in the middle the most, where you had an open platform, you have your metadata on IPFS, and whereas even if you mint with Rarible, you can go and find the IPFS URL and pin it yourself. So it's
Mm-hmm.
always going to be there. But at the same time, they have higher quality stuff, but it's not a curated walled garden that's so hard to get into.
Yeah, no, I like your logic with that. That makes perfectly good sense to me. Let's talk about what you've done and with your latest art piece. You're calling it Gnosis, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Tell us the inspiration behind that, and kind of let's go through that.
Yeah. So it's the first one that I've tokenized. I've been making art since 2000, late 2017, but the first one I tokenized, and it's the first one in a series of probably about four paintings, called Inner Light is the series. And it's kind of exploring this concept of this mysterious inner light that, resides inside of all of us. And so they're kind of these fragmented human forms with light shining through them. And so this is the first one, Gnosis, which, I can see you got pulled up there. And all of my art has always been very like philosophical and very spiritual in a sense, but I feel like it's a way for me to say something without actually saying it, because when I try and communicate with people about different ideas and things, sometimes it's real easy to either get shut out or to get that kind of glazed over look in their eyes where you realize they kind of checked out a while ago. So this is a way for me to speak what's on my mind without actually having to say it.
So tell us about this chip, this NFC chip. What is that? Um, how does that function? For those who may not understand what that all means, kind of tell us about that. That's under your seal with this art piece.
Yeah, so I sign all my paintings, not with a signature. There's a signature on the back, but I put my seal in the lower corner, and underneath that, I use what are called NFC stickers or chips. It's near field communication, and it's basically, if you've ever used Apple Pay or Google Pay at the store, you've used NFC technology. Your phone will send out a signal to whatever the receiver is, and because your phone is sending out a signal, these chips don't have to have a battery. Your phone powers it. So I can get these small, cheap stickers and embed them under my seal. That way it's in there forever, permanently. And then I encode all the metadata on that chip. So the name, the size, the date, the contract and token ID, the IPFS string, everything is on that chip. So my paintings are permanently connected to the token. I can't just spin up a new token in a year and say that, no, this was the token that goes to it. Nobody can ever forge my artwork or steal it and try and create a new token. It's all in there permanently. So you just get an NFC reader app, or if you have Android, it's got one built in, and you scan that chip that's under the seal, and it will bring you all the metadata and a link to the artwork. So I think somewhere on the Instagram, I've got like a video that shows it all, like in the process of me scanning it and pulling it up. But it was just, I was trying to solve the problem of taking the digital world on the one hand and taking the physical world and connecting them permanently. Because I think if you have an art piece in one world and you have the NFT in the digital world, who's to say which goes with which? So who's to say that an art gallery can't spin up a new NFT or the new owner can't spin up a new NFT? And I think we're early in the industry, so people are trying to ask those questions in practice. Like you see people burning a Banksy and moving it over to the NFT. And that was kind of them trying to say, how do we take this physical thing and infuse it into the digital world? And so this is kind of me asking that question and looking for answers that I can then pass on to other artists and kind of create some best practices for taking physical art to the digital world.
That's dope, man. And this latest piece, the Gnosis, is a fractional setup, so people can buy fractions of it.
Yeah. So
Explain that concept and how that's gonna work.
yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes I feel like I may have done too much too soon, but I'm a like,
It's all good. You got to push the envelope, man.
yeah,
It's all good.
I'm a creative, innovative kind of guy. And like, if there's something better that I can do, I try and do it. And I think with a lot of large artworks, even before NFTs, fractionalization was a thing where multiple people would want to invest in art, and you'd have to set up a trust, and you'd have to come up with all these shares, and that were, just on paper, really, to say that you own this expensive painting. So what I've done was I took I was looking for the best type of token to do, and I settled on ERC 1155, which is
Yeah, I saw that.
it's a non-fungible token type, but unlike the original ERC 721, if you have, say this one is token ID 1, it actually is fungible. It's 1,000 fungible tokens, but I can have other paintings on the same contract, which is why it's better than ERC 20. So what I've done is I fractionalized it into 1,000 tokens, and then whoever holds the 1,000 tokens owns 100% of the painting. If someone buys it and they want to split that up with 3 of their friends, or if they have an investor and a family member, they can give each person 333 tokens and all have 33%. So it's something that's already set up that in the future it's going to be easy to divide. But at the same time, you can go on OpenSea or Rarible and sell the whole bundle at once, which is what I'm doing, and you can buy 100% of the painting.
So on Rarible, you're selling the whole piece.
The whole thing, right? So
Okay.
there's the fractionalization is built in through the tokens. There isn't a governance structure built in. So that's something that the investors and the custodians, whoever, would have to decide on their own. But so basically, I'm not trying to sell like each token out to 1,000 different people. I'm not trying to do some kind of cash out on securities of my art or anything like that. I want to sell the painting. And this is why I'm thinking of maybe incorporating OpenSea a little more, because Rarible's platform, I'm realizing, could use a little bit more development as far as how you're selling things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's up for, you can make an offer on it, you can bid on it, but I'm selling the whole painting. So the first buyer will get the painting shipped to them. And if you own an NFT of a physical item, what you can do as far as proving ownership is you can sign a message with that wallet that shows that you own that token. So I'm going to sell the whole painting, the 1,000 tokens. And, if you're an investor that's interested in purchasing part of it, I'm open to that. But, I'm not going to sell 1/1000th of it just to random people yet.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That's what I was wondering about, how that was all going to play out. That's cool, man. I like what you're doing. What's on your plate next for new pieces? Are you working on one now? What's going on, and where are you going? Me and Ken Bozak gonna get you to do one on wax, man. We got to get you to do one on wax. We'll talk offline about that, but
okay. They find the wallet, and I'm not opposed to it at all. I think it's really cool, and I think wax is going to be really big in the gaming scene.
I think so too. Yeah.
That's coming up. But yeah, so I'm continuing this series. It's probably gonna end up being a series of 4.
Okay.
So I'm working on the next one for that. I've also had I don't want to spoil it yet, but I've been working on something as far as physical things that people use that I'm doing with carbon fiber, that I've already made some prototypes, but I'm also, why not incorporate an NFT as far as ownership for that? Because they're going to be a little more valuable, like a few $1,000s each, and it would be nice to have, that NFT to prove ownership. So that's probably not going to come till later this year. And then I'm possibly working on some collaborations with Nate McCrory, who's a friend of Ken Bozak's, and creative types like me. We've always got like a million things going on, But right now, the main thing is just finish this series, and I'm probably only going to do about 10 major paintings a year because I think it's important that artists keep a control of your supply. However much you're doing, try and keep it consistent. That way,
I
your
agree.
collectors know what to expect.
Yeah, I agree, man. Don't flood the market unless you're Beeple. I think
Yeah.
Beeple is an anomaly, but in most cases, control that supplies, quality over quantity, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And yeah, that's what's up, bro. That's what's
We could
up,
handle that
John.
a little more because I see a lot of artists on Twitter telling creators to just keep pumping out stuff, and I think that's really bad advice. If people like your work, you don't need to have like 1,000 editions of it out. It is
Mm-mm.
important to keep practicing and keep illustrating or keep editing or painting, whatever you do, but you don't necessarily have to flood Twitter to the point that people get annoyed with you. Just work on a decent amount and stay consistent putting it out there. But definitely keep in mind that your valuation is going to be just like stocks. It's tied to how much you put out there.
Right, right. I agree, man. Definitely agree. Man, I mean, it's been a great conversation. Appreciate you coming on. Definitely looking forward to some of your pieces coming up, man. And any last words for the audience?
I don't think so. Just be careful out there, but have fun. Don't be afraid to have fun with it because people are having fun. So
Yeah, I have some friends that are interested in they're testing the waters and want to launch an NFT, man. I'm just like, bro, just do it. Don't be scared of failure. You just got to get out there and do it. You'll be surprised what type of traction you get. And if you don't get the type of traction you want, it's a learning experience for you to, pivot and make improvements on it. Because at the end of the day, man, it's all perception. It's all perceived value. And
mhm.
so if you can build that perceived value for your brand and your image and your artistry, I think that's where the success will come. Because I mean, art is art, right? Anyone could do paint strokes and do some stuff, right? But it's about the allure. It's about who's behind it. It's about that makes it more valuable than someone else.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree.
So there you have it, ladies and gents. John Constantine. We're gonna definitely check him out. Keeping a lookout for this guy, JohnConstantineArt.com. If you want more details on what he's selling on Rareable, there'll be a link in the description of this video. This is
I
it,
appreciate
people.
it. Thank you.
We're rocking out to A Day to Remember, Resentment. Why did you
Yeah,
pick that song?
because it's what I'm always listening to in the gym. It's something to get me pumped up.
Okay, got you. And I haven't heard this one, but hey, I'm open to all types of music, ladies and gents. That's it, though. It's your boy Crypto Blood. Another kicking in session. We out of here. Holla. If you want to see more videos and interviews like this from influential people in tech, finance, and sports, subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the bell to be alerted. And go a step further and join the YouTube membership area for early releases of videos like this. I'm out of here. Ha!